Hello, Radiant One, and a very big and a very warm welcome to Mastery, the show and podcast for brilliant spiritual beings just like you, having a human experience ready to ignite the mastery inherent in you, as well as grow and expand from within and wanting to lead with love in work, business, and life. Designed to activate the mastery already within you, here we merge the worlds of seen and unseen, magic and miracles with the mundane and the practical, spirituality with strategy, the energetic with the physical, and business, work, and life with a whole lot of love and soul. I'm your host, spiritual business coach, business developer, and radical love rebel Maria Serafina. And it is my deep honor, my great pleasure, and joy to share this episode with you. I serve business owners and leaders wanting to learn and be supported as you navigate leading with heart and soul. I do that through the Spiritual Leadership Academy, the Spiritual MBA, and one-on-one spiritual business coaching full of intuition and energetic alignment. You can find out more about everything on my website, mariaserafina.com. Having been called to this show and podcast, it is my strong guess that mastery is already inherent within you, Radiant One. If you'd like to expand and amplify that mastery, download the Mastery Activation I've created for you. Originally released within my paid membership, The Elevation, I've now made it available to all. Go to mariaserafina.com/MA or click the link in the description to receive it. Remember, if you enjoy Mastery, make sure you subscribe, like, comment, share, or leave a review to amplify the energy and love being shared in these transmissions so they can reach more and more gorgeous radiant beings like you. Today I'm joined by emotional space specialist and interior designer Marie Fogt Falkenberg, who is dedicated to community and how she can enhance our coexistence. Marie's philosophy is rooted in the belief that now more than ever we need to connect body, mind, and soul within the spaces we inhabit, the services we provide and receive, and the products and brands we engage with. Marie has done this by creating environments where we as individuals can thrive both physically and mentally better, whether it be the homes we live in, the offices we work at, the places we receive care, or the public spaces we move through. It concerns all our shared spaces. Experiencing losses and grief early in life, Marie connected with her spirituality and recognized that life is fragile, as well as instilling her with a gratefulness for life itself. This has stimulated her awareness of herself, others, and life, and ignited a strong desire to work with people and foster consciousness and connection in society. Personally, as you'll hear, whenever I think of Marie, I think of light. She has this uncanny ability to see light that I absolutely love and admire. I hope you'll enjoy our sacred conversation. Here it is. The energy is rising. Welcome, Marie, to Mastery. As I shared with you, I am giddy with excitement because this is a sacred conversation that I've been wanting to have for a long while, and we've been trying to make it work, and now you're here. And I'm just thrilled to see what is going to come through. And because, okay, I'm just going to stop. Can you start by introducing yourself? Let the world know who you are and what you do, please.
And first of all, thank you so much for inviting me. I'm also been looking so much forward to it, and I'm happy that it's today. My name is Marie Fogt Falkenberg, and I am a designer and I'm a specialist in emotional spaces.
Yes.
Very shortly.
Very briefly, shortly. Okay, so one of the reasons why I really wanted to have this conversation is because, we've connected, I suppose we've known each other sort of like for, I want to say 12-ish years, because we connected through a friend who got married, and I think they're on their 12th or 13th year or something like that.
It's 15. It was 15. It was the year I gave birth to my daughter.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, there you go. So 15. Well, time flies. Over the years, what I've seen is that you have this, there's this sense, this eye for light and for that you have. And that's something that I really want for us to go into later on. But first, I would love to hear about your journey with spirituality and your spiritual journey, how
Mm.
it began and how it's evolved.
Mm. Um, really, really nice to be asked that question because it gives you the possibility to reflect. I
Mm.
think I actually my some of my spirituality lies in the light.
Yes.
I feel extremely connected to light.
Yeah.
Almost, I had a meditation once, and in the meditation, I was asked, "What is your name?" And I answered, "Light." Um, so I feel extremely connected to light
Yeah.
and like being greeted when
Yeah.
there's the sparkle. And I remember one of my first memories. I probably have been, I wasn't into kindergarten yet, so I was probably 4 or something.
Okay.
I was staying home the first years with my mom before entering the Danish kindergarten,
Mm.
and there was like a green field near where we lived, and there was a homeless man. And when I saw him, I had a memory of that he was at the green field, obviously homeless, but there was like light over him and on the green field. And I had the urge to go home and collect all the money I had and invite him on a meal.
Oh,
So that's kind of my first memory
yeah.
of something.
Yeah.
I think I somehow always have it with me from my birth,
Yeah.
and because
Mm.
I also feel that there's something that I didn't learn in this life. So I
Mm.
have something with me, and then it's how much do I cultivate
Mm.
my
Mm.
spirituality, and
Mm.
how much do I allow it to grow. And
Mm.
then as 11-year-old, I lost my very good girlfriend.
Oh,
She died, and that was where I really went into it because I tried to speak into nature and the trees giving me answer about her death.
okay. Wow. As
Yeah,
11-year-old?
yeah.
Wow. Okay.
I tried to communicate with
Yeah.
trees
Yeah.
as a helping tool in my grief.
Wow.
Um,
I mean, and is that something that you had learned or been taught,
no,
or like that
no,
was just some
that was
innate?
just like children. It was natural to me.
Yeah. Wow.
Trying to communicate if you hear me. I'm not sure that I really had success in any way, but it
No.
was somehow calming in that grief
Yeah.
process.
Yeah.
And so I think I always had like an open heart to it.
Yeah.
And then later in life, in my early 20s, I lost my boyfriend who
Oh,
died. And at that point, I had some years after where I actually closed my spirituality
yeah. Okay.
because it when you suffer through grief with an open heart,
Yes.
it can also
Yes.
your openness can
Yes.
also be very transparent. Uh,
Yes. Yes.
and I think that was too much for me at that time.
Yeah.
So I actually asked my third eye to be closed.
Oh, okay. So you did that
Uh,
consciously. You simply just
yeah,
said, yeah.
it was too much for me. All this
Yes.
thing that was happening.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think in the early 20s, it's normal that you actually want control
Yeah.
uh, because it somehow gives you another comfort. Also,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
we were not, I was at least not taught
Yeah.
how to be
Yeah.
in a world that's more dimensional
Yeah.
that we
Yeah.
maybe just see with
How did
our
how did
eyes.
you know to ask to have your third eye closed like that? Because it sounds like that was open by then, that you did you have an experience through your teens of that being open or
Like the trees, very instinct,
yeah.
just
Yes.
intuitive. I
Yeah.
work in the world very intuitively, also with
Yeah.
people,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
connecting with you. It's
Yeah.
also like pure energy.
Yes. Yes, it is.
And so I
Yeah.
think, and I did come from a childhood where I was always praised by going with my instinct,
Oh, okay.
and I
Yeah.
was
Mhm.
allowed to do that.
Yes.
Um,
Yes. So
So
you
that
were
has,
elevated and
yeah,
supported, not
yeah,
sure. Oh yeah, I think that's
that
really
has for
beautiful.
sure helped me in that process, and
Yeah,
having a natural relationship to
yeah,
being this is my instinct, just go with it, play with
yes,
it.
yes.
So it was not so much here, it was
No,
more in the body, very not intellectual.
and that's brilliant because in our world today, there's so much. I mean, I think the logic and the control and the linear thinking is automatically there. That if we
Yeah,
cultivate that other side, there's
yeah,
going to be this, I don't know if it's a balance or alignment. There is going to be that weaving of the world, is what I like to call it.
yeah.
Oh, so when did you, so after, because I love what you say about, how grief can be so difficult. And it gives me a deeper understanding because I know some of the volunteer work you do and some of the projects that you do involve grief. So that makes a lot of sense to me now. And that's beautiful. How did you, and also, I think it's a beautiful message to people to know that when you are grieving, the way that
Mm.
you are grieving is the way that you're grieving, and no one else can tell you what it looks like or what it should be like, or like allow yourself to be in that space. And if that requires for you to say, okay, I'm gonna quote unquote shut myself off from this for a while, that's totally fine as well. That's such a beautiful message that you share there.
I'm happy. I'm not sure that it was the correct thing to do, but I tried to protect myself at that
Yeah,
point,
yeah, yeah,
at
yeah,
being not living at home, living in
yeah,
an apartment
yeah,
where I
yeah,
lived with my boyfriend.
yeah, yeah,
So there was a big turnaround in my
yeah,
life. So I think I did it to protect myself. And
yeah,
luckily, later
yeah,
in life, it was I refound my connection to my
yeah,
spirituality.
yeah,
But as you know, I have a big, I think I can call it passion for death and grief,
yes, yes,
because
yes,
yeah, grief really, really can allow us to expand ourselves instead of
yes.
making a big bodily
Yes,
contraction.
yes, yes,
So
yes,
I'm very much into to that
yes.
topic. Yeah.
And I mean, it's always easy to go back and say, okay, upon reflection and say, could I have done it differently? And I also know that today, one of the things that I work with is when I feel quote unquote hurt or upset, to not shut down, to actually
Mm,
stay open, which is
mm,
really, really difficult. Not to continue letting people hurt me, or if it's, especially when it's grief,
mm,
to allow yourself to feel how deep your grief can be,
mm.
because it also shows you how much you loved and how much you love. So there's that. And again, our grieving processes are different, and it's okay to be how we do it. How did, was it conscious also to reopen it, or when did that, like, what happened when how did you, because you said find my way back. So how did you find and it's interesting how you say find our way back, right? Because that's something about, I'm a nerd about words, and finding our way back means
But it is from
it,
where we
yes.
grow.
Yes, exactly, exactly. So what happened for you to what happened, or how did it happen for you to find your way back?
I think it's not like I left it 100%. It's
No.
just that I needed to take the
Yeah,
volume down,
yeah,
because I also remember, I'm gonna come back to your question, but I also remember giving birth to my daughter.
yeah,
It kinds of open you up with a vulnerability to the
yes,
world in an extreme. So you love more, you feel more on all the
yes,
frequencies. It's
yes,
just more, more, more.
yeah,
And for me, at least, it's been the same with grief,
yes,
where it's at that point in the 20s, I needed to take the volume down. It's not like I left it and
no,
went into the commercial world, but then I had a friend. I think she just slowly introduced me to the place where I took the volume down.
yeah, yeah,
That was around I think it was in 2012.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, well, that's been, well, that was after we met. Yeah, because we were saying it's 15 years. And so how was the process of finding your way back or turning the volume back up for you? How was that? What happened? What did you do?
It wasn't really a process. It was just
Hmm. Oh,
oh, an old friend, and then I was just not afraid. I think it was also about that when I gave birth, I lost or said goodbye to a lot of things that you could be like afraid of, or
yes.
misunderstanding, protecting yourself
Yes.
from, and
Yeah.
then I just kind of rinsed it off.
Yes. I've heard people say, and I haven't given birth, so I don't know, but I have three nephews, and like if anybody touches a hair on them, it's like my sister and I, we've already like we know that if anyone touches the nephews, I'm the one, she's not the one that's going to go to jail. I'm the one who's going to go to jail for whatever is going to happen. So she can stay with them, but I'm gonna like, because I've heard it say that when you give birth, it's like having your heart living outside of your body all of a sudden. Like that's what it feels like. And even though I'm quote unquote just an auntie, I can totally see how that is how that can be true in a sense.
Yeah, and also about because I'm reflecting now how much, or because it's like stairs. So it's
Yeah,
not like that was, I think for somebody,
yeah,
they could see, okay, this was the sliding door moment. This
yeah,
was when.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
But because I think I had it very gradually, and then
yeah, yeah,
withdrawing a little, and
yeah,
then
yeah,
moving forward, and
yeah,
also
yeah,
with an
yeah,
awareness and a
yeah,
consciousness
yeah,
on the road,
yeah,
with that comes with also age.
yeah, yeah,
But I think also stepping into motherhood is also a maturity and
yeah,
the pureness of a
yeah,
very, very open
yeah.
heart.
Yeah, 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 I can see that. How did you have any practices or any rituals that you were starting? Like, were there any spiritual tools that you were using, or, meditations or oils or anything like Chris, like, was there anything that you were doing in that process of expanding, I suppose?
That actually, all that I think came later on. Also,
Mm,
I seeing it like stairs. I'm very
yeah,
visual, so
yeah, yeah, yeah,
everything
yeah,
is a picture.
yeah.
Um, um, I think after having stress a couple of times, because I
Okay, yeah.
definitely didn't live in alignment with my
Mm,
maybe energy, and I
yeah,
know both
yeah,
of us are into human design,
yes,
and so I also were taught a lot about myself
yeah,
through that
yeah,
system.
yeah,
And today I have like a meditation practice.
yeah,
I also bathe in the ocean every day,
yes. Oh,
which really grounds me. And
yes,
so I'm the rituals really keep me on a very
yeah,
mindful path.
yes, yes,
And because I have the energy to
yeah,
be in the sixth and the seventh gear,
yeah,
I did that for a lot of years, and really made a damage on myself.
yes.
And then from that, I learned that I'm much more mindful and
Mm,
aware when I
mm.
stay in my fifth
Yeah, yeah.
gear. And yeah,
And I suppose also more at peace and more satisfied, right? Like
absolutely.
yeah, which
Yes.
is that's one of the ways that I measure quote unquote success, or yeah, one of the ways that I measure success in life today is how satisfied am I? And I'm, in human design, I'm a generator. So for me, it's satisfaction. For others, like for a manifestor, it might be peace that you wanna measure it by, and so forth.
Mhm.
In terms of, because again, going back to your work, you're a designer, and the way some of the things that you share, I mean, again, also because it might be that I'm also seeing with my energy, like I'm sensing things, but there is, and I'm wondering this for me, like when you were talking about the trees at 11 years old, there was even a connection to the material world and to the natural world, because a lot of your designs include natural materials. How did you find your way into design? And yeah, tell us about how you found your way into that.
I think I found my way into it because I'm extremely visual. I have a very
Mm,
strong inner vision also.
yeah,
So creating worlds where
yeah.
people can have a better well-being in has always been my direction. How can we
Mm,
create spaces and environment
mm,
where we see the space as a active role in your living,
mm,
supporting you
mm, mm.
on a lot of levels. And so I think I always wanted to be a designer properly to create
Yes, yes,
and make a difference
yeah,
in the visual world where we
yeah,
exist properly, because
yeah,
I've been supported by it myself.
yes,
So yeah, and so I think it's after working in the interior design field for I was 6 or 7 years, I started up my own business in Munich while living there.
yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, that's when you did it, when you were in Munich. Okay.
yeah.
Um, and you mentioned, because what I can't help but think that, because one of the things that if people, when it comes to spirituality, or if someone recognizes themselves, for example, as a star seed, one of the things that can be really difficult, and I know it was for me, was understanding why on earth am I here? Like, why am
Mhm.
I? And a lot of us have struggled with being in a physical vessel, in a physical
Mhm.
body. And what I'm hearing is that not only you're actually creating spaces where not only can we be comfortable in our physical vessels, but we can even have spaces that surround us, that elevates that like
Mhm.
that supports that.
Mhm.
Mm.
Yeah, supports
Yeah.
and promote.
Yeah.
Uh, how do you want to be here? So
Yes. Yeah.
in it's both inside and outside. How do you
Yeah.
want the physical world to support and promote your being here?
Yeah.
Uh, and I
Yeah.
think initially my I am here to create community
Mm.
in everything I do. It's about community.
Oh, okay.
I also work in on a grief campaign, and that grief campaign is also about community,
Yeah.
because community grief has never been a solo. It's supposed to be a solo experience. It is
Yes.
for the community to support you and be
Yes.
together with you.
Yes. Yes.
And
Yes.
always looking back at our inheritance, the
Yeah. Yes.
what we have with us. And I think we
Yeah.
lost our sense of community
Yes. Yes.
in the
Yes.
when the industrial world came.
Yes. Yes.
We lost
Yes.
it
Yeah.
because we
Yeah.
became too efficient in the
Yeah.
world.
Yeah.
And I do see the new paradigm
Yeah. Yeah.
arising,
Yeah.
and that
Yeah.
gives me much hope.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that is what I work for: community
Yes.
and
Oh, that's,
coexistence.
yeah. And because as you said, we lost the ability to hold space for the difficult times.
Yeah, we are very light, as in light focused.
Yeah.
So we celebrate the baptism, but
Yes.
not the miscarriage.
Yes.
Celebrate
Yes.
the marriage, but
Yes.
not the divorce.
Yes. Yes.
So we
Yes.
put the flashlight on everything that's good, and we want to fix and make things better.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
But
Yes.
in but we wouldn't know the light if we didn't know the darkness.
Yes. Yes.
Um,
Yes.
and that
Yes.
is where we always need to have that duality of
Yeah. Yeah.
both sides.
Yeah.
because in that balance, there's a huge happiness and
Yes.
gratefulness.
Yes. And because we live in the world of duality and polarity, like that's the realm that we're in. And one of the things I love about you, say, because this, that I often share, that the idea that we can be in high vibe and just happy all the time is simply impossible. I mean, what I've found is over the years, the more personal work I've done, the higher my frequency is.
Mm,
And also sometimes I can even hold space for the deeper the sorrow, the sadness, the grief, the anger, the frustration, the hurt. Um, However, it's not as sustained or as long as it used to be. The transmutation of it seems to be, quote unquote, speeding up,
mm.
but it's still part of life, the cycles, the rhythms, the all of that. So I love that you share that. How do you, when you work with a client, or when you start a project, how does your spirituality or your intuition, or even if you, maybe you're not conscious about it, but how does that happen? Because I see, again, with the things that you share, there's such an energy, there's such a essence to it. I just, yeah. So how does that happen? Like like tell the project, like do you sit, yeah.
I think sometimes I also, because it's also interesting to share when I work with a client that's maybe not conscious about this.
Yeah, yeah,
Then it's not then I'm not letting them out of the possibility to live in a space or work in a
mm,
space where the rooms can really promote well-being,
yeah,
and then I tailor the message
yeah,
to the point where they will
yeah,
get the best out of it.
yes, yes,
Because it's also about, if I have a client that is not that open, but
yeah,
they somehow are attracted to my energy,
yes,
that I needed to help him,
yeah,
then I have trust in, okay, this
yeah,
is a relationship, and
yeah,
also listening to my own instinct.
yeah,
Then I always try to see, okay, this is where you are, and then
mm,
I will lift the energy as
yeah,
much as we can, and
yeah,
then I will lift it, the rest of it, alone for
yes,
the space.
yes,
But we
yeah,
can, because I think a collaboration also as a community is really important,
yeah,
also when it's between me and a client.
yeah.
Then yeah, does it make
Yeah,
sense? Yeah,
100%. One of the things that because again, I'm nerdy about energy, I'm nerdy about alignment and connection and community. And one of the things that I'm really nerdy about currently is like how much energy is actually in the words and in our language without us. So you can walk into a room and you could, oh, it's a warm welcome, or it's a cold reception, or it's a enlightened idea, that it's like
mm.
there's a lot there, you have butterflies in your stomach, but and so there's energy is constantly, like right now as we're recording this, one of the things that I've noticed is we have the European Championships going on in soccer, and the presenters, they keep talking about the energy, the energy, the energy of the crowd, and how it uplifts people, and how, the other day there was a team that was booed by their spectators. And so for me, it's like, it's so interesting how energy is always present in our language, whether or not someone are open or even spiritually curious or not. It's still there. They're still talking about it, which I
Yeah,
find to be so fascinating. And exactly like you, I mean, for me, like when people seek me out, most of
yeah,
them Google spiritual business coach. They know I'm pretty like open by the time, like
yeah,
by the time they find their way into my spaces, that's part of the reason they come to me.
yeah.
But that doesn't mean that I'm trying to force my beliefs or my thoughts or anything on people. For me, it's about discernment. And I always say that take what serves you and leave the rest. I'm not here to preach you like or anything. I'm here to open you, to align you, to support you. And I'm sharing that because that's what I hear that you're doing as well. There is a tailoring, and for sure they're coming to you based on your energy, and even if they don't know, based on what I see you share, like there is so much energy and connection and community in those things that you share, even if it's just an image that they might not know that they're attracted by your energy. They might think it's your quote unquote style. Like that's fine.
Yeah, but it's also because now I had my own business for 17 years. And then 2 years ago, we'll probably talk about that later, I started the creative studio Lysfarm.
Yeah.
And so the way I always had referred clients is I'm very also, if you look at my LinkedIn, I said, let's create ripples together.
Yes.
Because I see all my clients as ripples, and I've only taken clients via referral.
Yes. Oh.
So I don't have a web page. I have
no, I look for one.
I do have an Instagram, but it's not, it's of course interior, but it's also very intuitively because I don't want to be sucked down that hole too much.
No.
And so it's so I've been able to living off that for 17 years and really having amazing clients. And I think it's also the energy transported from the one client to the next client. You just need to go to her, and then they trust the person and say, okay, we do that because they it's a referral. So
one thing, would you go into, because you mentioned the grief campaign. Would you tell me or tell us a little bit more about how that came about and what happened? Because you said you were really into grief, death, and then I also heard light, because light was and I love how, like, I'm realizing that I have picked up on your spiritual name of light, like, because when I think of you, I think of light, and not necessarily, I don't mean like a shining object. I mean like an energy. And so I'm just realizing.
I'm so happy to hear that.
Okay, so but tell us about how you how the grief campaign that you're working on, like how that came about, and share your journey with that.
The grief campaign arose from my creative studio Lysfarm, and Lysfarm is for non-speaking Danish. It's lys means light. So it's light farm, but it's a word between Danish and English, because our job titles was farmers of light. That was what we did, farm light into what we did, and raise that for raising the energy in each project. And then we wanted to use business as a force of good. And since my partner Katja, also she's a death doula, and also worked voluntarily in an international grief center in Berlin, where she lives. So we both had a big knowledge and experience within the grief. And she also had her own experience. So we actually, that was one of our starting points, making this grief campaign. And we wanted to, we looked into how many grief campaigns are intellectual and speaking to the mind. And we want to make a bodily grief campaign where you really, with your body, feel how it is to grieve. Because there is also a gap between the person grieving and the next of kind that doesn't know what to do and how to be available or say the right things, or when is it over? When is this over? Which is also, but because an understanding that this is anew. This is also now I forgot the English word. This is also like the stairs that you are. It's a new place in your life, and you will never go back. So we decided to make a grief campaign where, as before in time, we had our wise people in our society and telling we all went to the wise woman or man and we kind of lost that in our society and the important voices. They did start to arise again, luckily, also because of social media. And so that was why we contacted artists who has been in grief and expressed very profound wording about grief, where you really had a bodily experience reading their expressions and experiences with grief themselves. So we wanted to move taboos around death and grief. We're very scared of saying also just the word grief. I think by 2006 to now, the word grief and death moved 40% down in wording in newspapers.
Oh wow!
So we are saying they slept. I don't know the English expression. They went sleeping and they never came back, or they went away. No, they didn't went away. They, of course, the soul did, but they died. So there's a big gap that we're not close to the knowing that we will die and the grieving that comes along. And many of us can exercise physical heart massage. But how many of us can do the practice of a grieving heart? Not a lot.
No.
And so that is what our campaign is about, bringing in the community with the awareness of grief. And so it's a very physical campaign that will exist in this space, outdoor, between people, raising empathic awareness while you're reading it. So it has, again, a ripple system also in the here and now space and to the future. And we're doing this together with a grief center in at the Copenhagen part in Denmark, because it's also good to have the science with us and back it up, because they also see it as a bodily experience. But our society is often very attractive to the intellectual,
to the intellectual, to the logic, to the mind, and also because death is something that is, I suppose, for some beyond comprehend, like it's beyond, because it's a portal way into an unknown. I love that. So in A Course in Miracles that I've studied, there's one of my favorite quotes says that birth was not the beginning and death is not the end, which speaks about the impermeable origin of energy and of our soul. However, there is a quote unquote loss of a physical vessel, and so there is that dying that happens, and one of the things that for me has helped in terms of have been moving to a place where I have a garden, and I can see, when you see the cycles of life, you see how there has to be death in order to be rebirth, for things to happen. And that's really beautiful. And like you said, yeah, exactly. And it has to be a physical experience. And I suppose the grieving, because when you said about like how long does it take, because I was just the other day I was hit by, and this is even just quote unquote just my dog. I lost my dear Stella. I lost her. That was 2018, so that's 2019, so it's 5 years ago. And still from time to time I get hit by this wave of just like deep grief that just tears at me. And so the idea that you can put a time, I don't think that we're ever without the grief. I think we learn to live with the grief, and to move with the grief and be with the grief again, because it's a human emotion.
It is, and also allowing us to take those emotions in, and that can be very hard in a
Yes,
society
yes,
where we in the
yes,
state, I think you
yes,
have like 2 days for grieving your parents, and then you're back to
yes,
work and
yes,
being
yes,
very effective.
yes, yes,
And I think it's always catering
yeah,
to be well.
yes,
And what if these huge life experiences,
yeah,
if we took them in, let them expand in our body, in our
yeah,
chakras,
yeah, yeah,
and really instead of making this
yes,
contraction, which
yes,
gives us lung diseases and other
yes, yeah,
diseases when
yeah,
we contract
yes,
ourselves, also in
yes,
our breathing,
yes,
but letting the pain and the hurt expand ourselves,
yeah,
which and more like grief is like an ocean. Sometimes the water is still, sometimes the waves are huge,
yes,
and you just never really know.
no,
And that is the ocean, the grieving ocean for the
yeah,
one you will have all your
yeah,
life.
yeah,
And then in life you will navigate better and better in your boat on those
yes,
waves, and
yeah,
you kind of know what can activate, and also be very generous to yourself
yes,
and your
yes,
feelings towards this. And but
yeah,
we were just never taught,
no,
because we, especially in the Western society,
yeah,
we don't have the rituals.
yeah,
We in especially in Denmark, we
yeah,
let the priest take care of
yeah,
the funeral.
yeah,
We let the hospital take care of
yeah,
the dying, and
yeah,
beforehand,
yeah,
we had our meeting points as a
yes,
community on the grave spots,
yeah,
taking important decision
yeah,
together with our ancestors.
yeah, yeah,
So they were always mindful
yeah,
about that
yeah,
the physical life would end,
yeah,
but
yeah,
they still took from the ancient
yeah,
knowledge,
yeah, yeah,
and we could see that from graving,
yeah,
that
yeah,
how close they lived. But
yeah,
then religion came and hospitals, which is
yeah,
beautiful, but we need a new, yeah. I
new
talk to
system.
a lot of nurses if they have rituals,
Yeah,
and they do have rituals. A lot of nurses putting on a light, opening the window so the
yes,
soul can come out,
yes,
and
yes, yes,
but,
yes.
yeah.
It's interesting because I remember I had a sacred conversation with a New Zealand Maori woman
Oh yeah,
who,
I love that.
yeah, exactly what you're sharing is essentially what she was sharing was how they don't see their ancestors or people who have crossed over as being quote unquote dead, even though like the physical body has died, but they're still very much there. They're just not in physical form.
Mm,
Um, and of course they grieve, but they're still in communion and they're still in community with these
mm,
people. And so one of the things that I've been contemplating, being Danish and here, is I've been wondering about our ancestors and how we were in community and how we did this. And I'm not going to go into the whole religion thing because I will just go off on a tantrum because yeah, that's a whole nother show
podcast.
to talk about that. So thank you for sharing about that. I will find links and stuff, and I'll make sure to share with people if you want to know more. How do you, so Lysfarm, Light Farm, you said was started um, with death doula, and one of the things I'm really reflecting on right now is because for me, so my family, my mom was not a nurse, but not a social worker, but she took care of old people's home. Like she was taking care of older people, so she's been around a lot of dying people for her entire life. My brother-in-law is now a nurse, and my sister was in that industry for a while as well. And I know that throughout my childhood, so I've been around older people and dying people a lot, and I think also because I had a near-death experience when I was somewhere around 11 years old, so I had an experience of oneness and
with yourself.
yeah, like, well, oneness with all that is. Like it was a so I've never been afraid of dying. I've never, I think, or at least from that sense on, I've never been afraid of dying, and it's sort of confused me when people have been, because it's, you know, it's there's been times in my life when I just wanted to return to that oneness because I wasn't feeling comfortable living in this physical vessel. So I think that for me, and I know that when my father passed, we had the nephews were there, and they were brought to see him as well. And I later found out that that's not really a normal like that's not a lot of what a lot of people do. But we wanted to show the decision was made that they had to see that he was now no longer with us, and to be okay with that. So I think that so what you're saying in terms of we have removed,
Beautiful.
yeah, we have removed ourselves. That makes a lot of sense, that we've removed ourselves from from
From the
what
point that we are dying.
yeah,
Yeah.
and what is essentially a
Yeah.
natural part of living is also
Mm.
dying,
But with the awareness of the fact that we will end our physical life one day, it gives so much meaning to being grateful for the smallest things
yes,
of everything that was
yes,
physical created for us to
yes,
just jump around and play and
yeah,
enjoy.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
I think it's and I think there's also like a study that the more that you are familiar with your own death, the more happy you are in your life.
Oh, okay, that makes
So
sense.
there's a
Yeah,
connection
yeah,
between
yeah,
these two
yeah, yeah,
points.
yeah,
Because if you live like there's no end date,
yeah,
maybe it makes you less mindful.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
What are some things like, so what are some things in your journey? What are some things that have been really valuable for you? It's like I'm wanting to share if there's any guidance or advice or support like you can give in terms of expanding
mm,
your heart or your abilities. Because I also sense that, and I want to ask this question also in terms of how you pick the materials, because I have a sense that you speak to, like, I have a sense that you actually communicate with the materials that you use in your design. And I don't know if that's true or not. You have to tell me. But I have this sense that you, and when I say communicate, what I mean is that with like the sense that what I am seeing, sensing, picking up is that in your process with a client, you're you're tuning in to them, whether they're spiritually open or not. You're like, there's a sense of connection, community, tuning into them. And then
mm,
there is a connection to the materials that then speak to you. It's like, oh, I'm the
mm,
one that's supposed to be this tabletop, or I'm the one that's supposed
mm.
to go on the floors, or I'm the one that's supposed to tell me. I could be making shit up, but like how so tell me.
But I love your analyze. I think you actually I think it's a I think you're right. I never thought about it that way because it's very intuitively
Yes, yes,
how is materials matching this family or this
yes,
company,
yes,
and then I need after the instinct to put the wording on.
yes,
Uh,
yes,
and so
yes,
kind of when you're just in a flow, it
yeah,
sometimes after I don't remember what I said,
yes,
but the
yes.
client will remember many years after and they said, but you said that. Oh, I did.
That's why
It's just, yeah.
I always record, like when I work with clients, when it's online, I always record the sessions, because like things like all of a sudden I'll just go into a blah, and then I'll be like, I won't be taking notes fast enough, and I'm like, what did I just like? And they're
Yeah.
sat there going, oh my God, that was brilliant. And
And
I was
it's
like,
not a blur. It's your inner voice just
it's
speaking, and
yes,
also having the
yes,
trust that it's
yeah,
speaking like somehow, because I thought about should I prepare anything, and then because it's also an old me that wanted to be prepared and what the norm gave me, which
yes,
I've used so much work
yes, yes,
saying goodbye to everything my that was good for my parents, but I
yeah,
didn't need it. So
yeah, yeah,
sending all that
yeah, yeah,
back,
yeah,
also in the normative society.
yeah,
And so that is something I've really learned the last maybe 5 years, really trusting that what will emerge is the right, and just
yes,
trusting it,
Yes.
and that not preparing isn't the same as not being prepared.
No, 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 no.
Yeah.
I once had I was this is years ago. I was teaching a class at CBS. It was bachelors. They were just about to be, thrown out of school. They were ready to graduate, and they wanted me to sort of like prepare them for that whole transition. And so I was doing a 2-day workshop. And on day 2, I came back, and the professor, she said that one of the other professors had asked her about like how it went and how everything. And she said, and she said to me, and I hope you don't take offense by this, but it seems as though I can't remember how she phrased it. She said, it seems as though you're not coming up with an answer. You don't have an answer ready for people when they ask you a question. And I was like, absolutely, because when I'm with a student and they're talking to me, I'm not thinking about what my response is supposed to be. I am present with that person, knowing that whatever is wanting to come through me will come through me. And so it was actually, she thought she was offending me, and she was giving me the biggest compliment because
I would also like
exactly, stepping out of the way. And what you're talking about also is what I would define sort of as mastery. The ability to know that, I'm getting chills. I don't have to prepare anything. I don't have to, what's the word I'm looking for? I don't have to prove anything. There's nothing. Yes.
Oh, I use so much of my life proving.
Yes. Right. Yeah. And for me, the process has been to step out of my way. And I suppose that's the logical mind you've been talking about, is that when I step out of my logical mind, and again, it's brilliant, especially with what you're doing, like the design you're doing, there has to be logical mind because there's calculations and tabletops and things have to fit together, right? So there's a lot of logical mind that goes into it. And same for me when we're talking about strategy or using different platforms and whatever. Yes, there is that logical mind, but the initial point is me stepping out of the way, being present so that I'm able to receive and then give. Like there's that, again, that reciprocity. Yeah. And not prove anything. That's why when I have, because, I do have a website, and people find me, I have my discovery sessions that I have. They're not me telling you, this is what I do, this is how I do it. It's a demonstration. Like it's a real session. You come in, you have a real session, you apply for it, and then you come in and you have a real session. And I'm not there to prove to you that I'm here to give you an experience of what it would be like to work with me. And if that is then right for you and right for me, we will both know that. And if it's not, it's not. That's fine.
I think also when you stop proving, you also kind of left your ego.
Yes. Yes.
Which is, I think it's not that I mind the ego, because the ego can also get you places.
100%. Yes.
But in terms of the relation between two parties, I think it's quite good that you're not proving. Yeah. Because while you're not proving, you're not empathic listening. If you know Otto Scharmer, do you know his 4 levels of listening? Otto Scharmer?
No, I'm not sure.
You should look him up. Very interesting.
Well,
He has a generic listening, so he has different kind of listening, and when you are empathic listening, then you are listening like you did at CBS.
Oh, okay. Well,
with the girl. Where you are the mostly open and not you're not tailoring a message while she's speaking.
No,
but you're allowing it to come out when she's done, because it's just there.
Yes.
And we need to trust that mind, the mind we have here.
Yes.
And not only here, because if we are too much up here already.
Yes. okay, time, I'm mindful of time, but there's two more questions that I will actually maybe three, but the first one has to do, you mentioned emotional spaces.
Yeah.
Can you define that? Tell us more about what you mean by the emotional spaces.
Um, right now, I'm looking. I will tell from the point that's it's on my mind right now
Yeah.
because yeah, right now I'm thinking a lot about transportation, how we all need to go more with trains, metros, stations. How can we make these environment more empathic? So when we are in a community on train stations where we didn't choose the people we are with, how can we create a space where we are more empathic, friendly, a soft environment? It's very difficult with the architecture that's done.
Yeah.
How can we make that we feel more safe,
Yeah.
that somebody's taking care of? I think right now there's a new big metro openings
Yeah.
station at Sydhavn in Denmark.
Yeah.
And when I look at it, it's nice, but it could also be like a steel elevator with that you can spray and clean down from bacteria, and it doesn't make me feel safe or promote a friendly atmosphere in me towards other people. So how can we work with the outside spaces and towards how we are in relation to each other when we didn't choose to be there together?
Don't know why that's making me emotional. Like I'm tearing up for that. Like that is, I think like it's like that is so brilliant, Marie. Like that is like to have a mind like yours that thinks like that. I'm like, what? Like
Oh.
that's just wow. Thank you
So
for
that so that is where, and that is also why with the campaign
yeah,
that is not it doesn't have a date yet, I would
no,
say, because we are actually not that good in fundraising is very hard,
yeah,
and big respect to people who's good in that field. It's
yeah,
not our métier. But that is also why when we put a campaign out in the public space,
yeah,
we will also create an environment and atmosphere around this people being more generous to each other,
yes,
even though that they
yes,
didn't choose to be there at the same
yes,
time.
yes. Wow.
Um, oh,
I'm sorry, that is making, I think there's two things. And number one, I think because when I lived in Paris, I was actually assaulted in the metro one
oh,
time. This was, 20 years ago, lots of years ago. So I think that maybe that's like the whole idea of, and so I love how that is such a subtle way of lifting people that I had never considered. And I like for you to have a brilliant brain like that and also a brilliant soul that thinks like that, that is the true, like that again to me is the true definition of mastery, combining both the logical and the spiritual and just like, wow. I'm so happy I asked. Thank you. And we
and
will talk about the
I'm
fundraising.
sorry that you had that experience, but also thinking about what happened to you. If you can take the safeness of the atmosphere you have in your office where you're
Yeah,
sitting, the
yeah,
safeness I have now, and we could
yeah,
move this outside,
yeah.
could we bring the just the language towards
Yes,
people
yes,
down? They
yes,
would be
yes,
more gentle because
yes,
there would be a support from the room,
yes,
and also that we're coded to
yes,
say you cannot do this in an atmosphere like this,
yes,
because we were brought up in of course in a society where we have
yes,
these rules and codex,
yeah.
but what if we move the inside space
Yeah,
of safeness outside?
yes. No, but I mean, it's again, it is absolutely brilliant. I mean, it's yeah. And
I don't know if I answered your questions, because sometimes I have it with
no,
I
you did.
something.
No, you absolutely did. And because my question had to do with emotional, you were mentioning emotional spaces, and what you shared here again is how it's again. This is something that you probably 99% of people won't even know about, but it will lift them anyway. So it's also like a behavioral change. It's a subtle change. It's an energetic change, or an energetic alignment or adjustment, a calibration of
Mm.
sorts that is non-intrusive, that is supportive, that is warm, that is welcoming, that is rippling, that is like, it's again, absolutely
Rippling. I love
brilliant.
that.
So that was my first question. The second question I have has to do with your journey with light, because you mentioned, being 3 years old and having this experience with the unhoused person and who was on the grass, and then moving through that journey. So where are you today with light? Because you seem to embody it so well, and you seem to embody it in your product. So where are you in your journey with light today?
Um, I think it's just part of me. I cannot really come
Mm,
and
you've embodied
I
it.
think I just recognize that
Yes.
it is a part of me,
Yes.
and maybe I'm with years more transparent about it.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
I do owe to tell also because I think it's that it's important in a when we talk like this, that we also with the light and the shadow
Yeah.
also saying that, and it's not because it's a shadow, but sometimes we only share and then this happened and then this is the result. So right now I'm my partner Katja and I, we are not having Lys Farm anymore
Oh,
because we wanted to do things differently,
yes.
which is and this is like truly it has a process. So it's been really fantastic 2 years. We still have our grief campaign, but
Yeah.
we just initially didn't want to work even though that we worked about visual
Yeah.
expression and art and
Yeah.
design. We didn't want to maybe end up exactly the same place,
Yeah.
and trusting the universe.
Yes.
I think we were supposed to bring out this grief campaign,
Yes.
and so right now I'm actually in a transition because the urge that I had for self-creating for so many years, being self-employed, I don't feel that anymore, actually.
Oh,
I
okay.
still, yeah, and I think it's very important because it's not
Yeah.
very often you hear that
No.
people tell I'm actually in a middle point.
Yes.
And even though
Yes.
it's fragile and it's in the process, I think
Yeah.
just so many people can relate to
Yeah.
being moving in a gap of something, but
Yes.
it's not something we really good sharing it.
No.
And especially because I want to make shifts and
Yeah.
changes. I
Yeah.
think also I need to also walk and talk.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And so I'm in a middle stage of what I want to do.
And how is that?
It's I think there's been waves because it's unsure, but as a
Yes.
manifesting generator, I'm really good in being bold and in the unsure.
Yeah.
And also a little like almost going to Tivoli. What's waiting?
Yes. Yes.
What's
Yes.
waiting? What is my next step?
Yes.
Because I was actually very sure, which is, I think we're supposed to, we're coded that when we go into something new, we believe so much that we believe that it will go on for a long time, which I actually did with Lys Farm. I really
Yeah.
had a
Yeah.
big belief in that it would
Yeah.
go on for a long time. But I'm also content with actually everything that happened on that journey, which I'm
Mm-hmm.
so grateful for
Yeah.
because I've been growing so much on that journey because I've
Yeah.
always been my own company and being
Yeah.
this duo, it
Yeah.
made like another ripple effect in
Yeah.
me, which I do really appreciate.
And there's two things that's coming up for you. Number one is there's this just over the weekend I was having a conversation or space holding with a dear friend, and the whole thing of a breakdown before a breakthrough happens. Like there's always, so a few weeks ago I was doing my first real like in-person flow shop, like about good energy here in Denmark. And the night before I was like emotional. I was crying. I didn't want to be here. I was like writing furiously in my journal at night. I was like, and all of a sudden I had this realization, oh, I think this is part of the cycle because I'm stepping into a new, this is something that I haven't done before. And so as the time came closer and closer to the flow shop, I got more and more calm because going back to what we were talking about, I know my shit. Like all I have to do is show up. And yes, I did have an agenda, and I did have, I did have quote unquote stuff prepared. But in terms of the content, I knew like I didn't need to prep that at all because that was just going to flow. And I suppose like with your journey with grief, do you not think that you've also gotten better at the transitions, actually the dying of something, like the okay with the closing down? Yeah.
Actually, unfortunately, last year I lost two girlfriends, and I don't, because I have rituals and the awareness that life is ending, and I think it makes you expand quicker in the grief process and the sorrow, and makes it more, you make, at least I feel that I'm more fluent, because I think so much of pain is also happening because we're contracting. I'm very into that we're not expanding. And if we just let the feelings and the pain and the sorrow and the horrificness of losing somebody just going into ourselves and into the ground and upwards, I think it makes it not easier, but it makes it more fluent as a human being, containing all these feelings, because we're not supposed to make a black box and have everything stuffed in there.
No. And also I think in Chinese medicine, they talk about flow. And even if it's flow of grief or anger or hurt or upset or sadness, it's important to let it flow, because the longer, like in Chinese medicine, when you hold on to it, that's when dis-ease arises.
Yeah.
Okay, so hold on, because we can go on forever and ever.
I told you so.
Yes, you did. The final, I suppose the final question, do I have a final question? It has to do with mastery. I think mastery. Yeah, mastery. How do you see mastery? What do you experience? What is mastery to you? Yeah.
I think mastery is probably what you described. Then when you had this pause saying, I did an agenda, because then I have a red thread and I onboard people of where they're going, but I know my message.
Yes.
That is probably
mastery.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a a tailor.
Yeah. Any final words, anything else you have on your heart or your mind you want to share?
No, I think for me, one of the important things was also sharing that it's when you are in this in-between space, that we should also be open about those spaces when you are, because I see your podcast as a community, so that is a safe space already. And being held. And I think we are not good enough sharing these transitions, and we're mostly sharing after the transitions, when we had the experience and we can reflect back. Yeah.
One of the articles that's calling me, and I think I have it almost complete, but we'll see. By the time this aired, it might be out. Has to do with dark nights of the soul and rude awakenings, and what happens in that process, and also about breakdowns, because it is, again, it's a normal part of the cycle. They're like the breakdown. If we can see that as normal and part of the process, then we can start to let it flow and we can be with it, I suppose, in a way that's quote unquote easier. Not that the pain is any less, but that we can be with it in all of its messy glory. And again, the analogy is, of course, always the caterpillar that turns into this gooey, messy thing before it spreads its wings. And I like to share that how with a caterpillar, if you try to quote unquote help it by cutting open the cocoon, it won't be able to fly, because it's in the process of moving through that narrow channel that the fluid is spread out into its wings so that it's able to fly. So it won't. So I suppose the message is, allow yourself the messiness, allow yourself to be uncomfortable and in grief, because it will elevate you, it will shape you. And we have that ability as spiritual beings having a human experience. We have the ability to transmute. We are I like to call us the transformers. We have the ability to transmute all of that energy.
Yeah, no mud, no lotus.
No, exactly. And I was just looking at my clock and it's 11:11. Marie, thank you so much for having blessed us with your presence. I mean, this was everything and more than I had wanted or expected or anything. So yeah. I will share.
I could do this every Friday.
We'll do this every Friday.
Yeah.
We'll talk after the recording. What was I going to say? Oh, I will share the links to whatever, I don't know. Marie shared something about some books and stuff out that will be in the description. So make sure you check out the thing on my website so that you can get and find it. And also, I will share, if you're okay with it, your LinkedIn profile so that, for that, because that emotional space thing was just brilliant. So I will share the links to stuff and so
thank you so much for making advertisement, because that is not my expertise.
No. Well, generator over here. So but we'll chat after. Thank you so much again, Marie. Sending love to everyone listening and everyone watching. Have a wonderful day wherever in the world you might be. Bye.
I'm sending light.
That is what I had for you in today's episode of Mastery with Maria Serafina. I hope it served you well. For all the deeds and details, click the link in the description and help me spread the love of this transmission by sharing it with a friend or on social media, or leave me a comment or review. Have a wonderful day. God bless.